Hi, welcome back everyone that's here and everyone watching at home online. Our next presentation is another user presentation by Tony from UCL here in London. So I'm going to hand over to Tony. He's going to run through and then we can have some Q&A at the end. After that, we've got Nick and Cameron from University of Brighton, and then we've got the V6 preview after that. So yeah, I'm going to hand over to Tony. Thanks.
Thanks, Rob. I always like the after lunch slot. Everyone's starting to go to sleep now, and so all the mistakes I make, you'll totally forget about them. Okay, so my name's Tony Slade, and I'm from University College London, UCL, and my role now is the head of digital media. It's quite a wide-ranging role. We have instigated in the IT department the process of service owners is the best way of description, and I am the service owner for various products, various services. They keep being added to, which gets quite interesting. There's a lovely picture of UCL. It doesn't look like anything like that at this point in time. Where Mary stood when she took that photo is about 18 porter cabins. UCL is going through what we call a transformation process. It is, at the moment, sort of, here's some stats. I don't expect you to read those, maybe later when you get the slides. What's really important is the figures. UCL has 18,500 undergraduates, 15,000 postgraduate students, and 5,500 research students postgraduate. Currently, around about 11,000 staff. And that is approximately 50,000 people. In the next 5 years, it'll go to at least 60,000. And within that period of time, we should probably become definitely the biggest university in the UK and close to the biggest university in Europe. It's a massive expansion program on a very small site. We're based in Bloomsbury. We have outreaching places, Guildford, Norfolk, Qatar, and the biggest thing that's going on at UCL at the moment is within the cultural zone in the Olympic Park. We've taken some significant space there with about a £1 billion investment. So right next to West Ham's football stadium. So that's going to be interesting on a Saturday afternoon with all the students. And so we become multi-site. So interesting that London Met is bringing everything onto one site. We're actually expanding out into other areas. Everything that goes out in the Olympic Park is new. And one of the big things that's happening there is there's probably going to be something called Media Futures, which is around video, photography, 360. The Bartlett School of Architecture is moved out there. What they're talking about is video conferencing and having live between the two spaces. So video is huge for UCL, but it's always been huge. It's something that started out way before I joined, and So I joined Information Service Division and with digital media, and these are the services that I hadn't realised this was going on, okay, stop there. So we have these services, Image Store, which is our image library, LectureCast, which is Echo 360, we have live streaming, we have what we've determined is Media Central, it's a MEDIAL, we have video conferencing, and Apple Podcasts. I'm responsible for most of those apart from the LectureCast service. We also have a MAM system, CatDV, which is in the process of being developed at the moment alongside our archiving system, and we're using Sony ODA. I'm also responsible for graphic design, photography, print and video production, which is quite, as you can see, a lot of things that we actually do. So where did we start using video? Started using video, had a studio in the old UCLH hospital, Middlesex Hospital, and that closed down. But during that period of time, we developed a legacy system using real networks, Helix. We had it for a few years. It became very expensive, and so we moved to Adobe Flash Media Server. From there, we then added Final Cut, a workflow Final Cut server, and Maurice, who's sat here down here in the front, developed an in-house program, StreamScript. And StreamScript was a kind of a small MAM application, and it was, say, built by Maurice, and it linked media files which were stored on Final Cut server, and then automatically encoded and transferred those to the streaming server, which at the time was Adobe Flash, and we eventually moved to Wowzer. So we've got Wowzer. We had Wowzer as a proof of concept, but at the same time as doing that, we also purchased Echo 360 and for lecture capture, and so we've been piggybacking off the Echo 360 instance of Wowzer. The one thing that's missing in all of that is we didn't have a media library. We had an image library, and we spoke to the vendors about that and about developing video, but we decided at the end of the day that that wasn't the way to go, and we started looking at other things. And the issues were mainly around in 2013. We'd had a reorganisation, and staff had moved around, and video content was very fragmented when we started looking at this. And we found that UCL users were choosing all sorts of different platforms, mainly external. They were using Vimeo and YouTube and other things. And the process was really difficult to manage. It's difficult to manage keeping all the bits of software that we developed ourselves in place, but it's also very difficult to manage because the number and the quantity of volume that we were getting. With the numbers of students, when I started at UCL in 2004, there was about 17,000 students. Now there's, say, close to 40. After Christmas, there'll be 42,000. So with the amount of business that's going on, we just can't manage with it. Of course, the downside of the situation that we'd created in-house was that we had to manually add everything to the Wowzer server, and all these requests were managed by effectively 4 people. Those 4 people were also the people going out shooting video. So we sat and thought about it a lot, and we decided that what we wanted to do was use the sort of shift left process and give the ability for everyone at UCL to, they own their content, so they should be able to upload it, manage it, and embed it wherever they wanted. As we started to look for alternative solutions to what we'd built ourselves, and we met with a variety of suppliers, streaming being one of the first through the door, and others. We sort of defined the requirements very loosely, I must admit, it was very loose. We knew what we kind of wanted, and we put in a bid for centralised funding. I'm sure everyone's had dealings with their own procurement department. I've built up over the last 3 years a very good relationship with them, but at the time we had no idea, and we were required to enter into an EU process, which was just incredibly painful. I can't describe it anything other than that. So why did we choose MEDIAL? Well, our requirements were a system that can be used for all staff and students. It had to be intuitive and simple for the end user, and it had to enhance the learning experience. We've heard earlier about the student experience. I think everyone's institution, that's what we're all concerned about at the moment. And the system should have the additional ability to deliver media content through UCL websites. So we've got a very old and ancient, not really supported anymore, CMS. We're going through the process at the moment of moving all the UCL websites onto Drupal. So actually getting content into the program called Silver is just incredibly difficult. So we needed a simple way of doing that as well. And the other key requirements, which was more around public engagement, we're trying to sort of obviously get students, potential students interested in UCL. We want the content that we've created to be searched, and we want the content that we've created to be open access. Obviously, not all of it can. UCL's 60% biomedical, so a lot of that content obviously can't be shared outside of the classroom. Key to us was, with everything that we've got, is supplier support. Whichever supplier we choose, we're a small team. You know, we require, I'm not saying a lot of hand-holding, but we require a sort of prompt response. Is that fair enough, guys? When things go wrong, you know, we need help. The system and the back end of the system should be stable, and it should be easy to manage. We'll find out from Gordon when he comes back how easy it is. And of course, it had to have the ability to link with other ISD managed applications. And of course, for all of us, especially even though we're UCL and we've got, you know, a lot of money, that money is spread very thinly, so it's got to be incredibly cost effective as an ongoing solution. We've bought lots of things over the past number of years, but we've got to a point whereby to keep it going, video conferencing is quite an interesting one. To keep our video conferencing solution going, I estimated to be around about 300,000 investment and sort of 50,000 a year. And we just decided that Skype for Business was far better. So it's perhaps not as good, but it actually does what we need it to do. And so we've gone down that route very heavily. So any solution we had to be cost effective. And so we had this procurement process, and MEDIAL was shortlisted. Streaming came in and did presentations, and we entered into a live trial. There was one other competitor. What was overwhelming for us was the users found MEDIAL simple to use. The feedback from the users was incredibly positive. The other systems we looked at, you know, people had, there were positives and negatives, but as a package, MEDIAL did what we actually required. And for our team, which is now rebranded as Digital Education, that's the sort of e-learning people, the Moodle plugin would give them an added functionality which was missing from that, and allow video to be actually added to that quite easily. Having said that, trying to get it passed by our IT teams has proved a little bit more difficult. The other thing is that during the trial, we have to say that the guys were really, you know, hands-on. Any questions that we had, it was excellent, instant return. So how do we use MEDIAL? So our system went live in June 2016, and we uploaded 100 random files, just things that we'd created and that were on other servers. Checked this last night and with Gordon, and 42% of the content, again, this is about the numbers, is available for public consumption. We've already, in just over a year, it's 18 months, 6,348 media assets, of which just short of 6,000, and that will be 6,000 now, are videos. We'd always thought that audio would be key to it as well, but interestingly enough, there's only 6%. What surprised me was that we've had over 80, well, that'll be 81,000 now. Visitors have been to the landing site and viewed content. And Gordon told me that and this is key for us, the average viewing time of media content is 3 minutes, 23 seconds. And in actual fact, that's quite good, because a lot of the videos that we've got on there are training videos. There's people like the School of Pharmacy show people actually how to do something. So they may only be 2 minutes long. And we have no idea why, but this one particular video has had over 6,000 views, and it's something to do with student accommodation. And some funny facts. So 12% of the UCL community are registered users. Windows is primarily 55%, and Chrome is the most popular browser. UCL delivers content. So we are London's global university. Our students do come from all over the world. Because we've got so many research students, postgraduate students, they're off in other countries doing things. It's quite interesting that desktop is still the most popular device for viewing content. And Gordon's key point here was the only African country watching media on a mobile device was Kenya. So it's quite surprising. We expected there were other places that were watching. Why Tuesday is the most popular day for viewing content, I'm not sure. But the most popular day ever was a few weeks back, where we had over 1,800 unique page views. And so how do we get this information? This is Power BI. It shows you on the left there where people are actually viewing the content from. Obviously, the big circle there is the UK. But we're seeing people from all over the world. Across America, Canada, all through South America, Australia and New Zealand. They were expected, but what's really pleasing for us is that people in Africa, India, and Asia are also viewing content. We can also see at the bottom how people are viewing content. We'd always assume that people would be viewing the content on mobile devices. In actual fact, the big green splodges are desktop, and the mobile devices, whether it's a phone or whether it's a tablet, are the little bits at the top. So our concerns about delivery via mobile perhaps were slightly misguided. So what do we do? Well, we're helping users to stream their media. Obviously, the key thing is to enhance their learning and teaching, but also for promotional activities. Student recruitment with the numbers that we're expecting to get is key. We want to improve the communications. We deliver a lot of training. There's a lot of external training goes on. UCL's just won some commercial business with the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. So there's training going there. But the key to us is, which is for my team, is live streaming. We've heard a lot about what people are doing with live streaming. But live stream for us, we've done live streaming for a very long time in various different forms. But it's all been a bit convoluted, and what we're trying to do now is actually bring that all together. And the things that MEDIAL are doing, along with Wowser, are exactly the sort of things that are supporting us brilliantly. When we started out, we had a number of key users and departments that we actually approached. Engineering sciences, we knew what they were doing. That includes computer science as well. So there's a lot of people doing stuff where they're recording doing screen capture and uploading that. We had obviously all our legacy content from the Flash server. We've probably only uploaded about 10% of that at the moment. We've gone through it, but there's content from there that's at least, there's content from VHS tapes. So that's at least 20 years old. School of Pharmacy, School of Public Policy, and the Institute of Education. The Institute of Education, when we started this process, weren't part of UCL. They were actually going through the merger at the time. And interesting enough, they were speaking to streaming about putting in a new system. So for them, it was great, because we said, no, you don't have to, because we're already going to do it. Most interesting fact about those, they're the people that we sort of dealt with at the start. They're still the key users now. We're bringing on other people like the sort of communications and marketing as well. So our users are embedding the content, they're linking the content, they're sharing the content, and we're starting to see now people using social media platforms to sort of push content out as well. We've trialled the process of live streaming through MEDIAL, and we've also evaluated the use of Media Lecture, and there's a strong case for us to go down that route as well. I had been hoping to show you a video, but I can't for various reasons. What we did is that we got a strange query that UCL in the summer hosted anthropology sort of workshop. And this was for universities across the whole of the UK. And they'd noticed that the figures of people applying to do anthropology was dropping, and archaeology, should I say, it was dropping. And so they're trying to get more school kids interested in doing that. And they held a day at UCL where everyone came together. And we had this idea, we were talking to them about live streaming the event, and we had this idea, of actual fact, there were 2 digs going on. One was going on in Israel, and one was going on the South Downs. So we said, we want to do one of these live. So we said, we'll go to Israel. But that didn't come off. But they still wanted to stream. So we thought about it, and then we got talking to the guys, and we got talking to Ryan, and we used the GoCoder app. And we explained to the guy, one of the guys out there on the dig, how to do it. And he had his mobile phone, and we set it all up for him, told him what settings to put in, and did this all remotely via email. And on the day, bang on the time, he streamed about 15 minutes from his mobile phone of the dig that was going on in Israel. And then we did the same thing, but we tried it differently. We actually used Wirecast and streamed that as well. And that was the point. It was sort of a light bulb moment for us. We knew that we had a system which was more than just a media library and would do more for us than actually what we'd set out in the first place to do. So the key learnings. Claire's not here. She was my project manager. And I think if it hadn't been for Claire, we perhaps would never have got as far down the line as we did do. It was really important to have somebody, when we were doing this, sort of to take the weight off the team, because we just got too involved. She managed to take a step back. We definitely decided it was the most important thing was to engage with the supplier early on in the process and ensure that throughout that there was constant communication between everybody involved. I ran a series of workshops at UCL. We created a special interest group for people that were doing video, reducing video, and what they were actually doing with it, sort of to define more about how we were going to go forward with it. We decided to brand it, and we developed a separate website so we could offer help, advice, and information. So what do we want to do in the future? Well, I think what we want to do in the future is this, and it's happening at the moment, today. UCL has invested in a new data centre on the edge of the M25. And most of the systems that we have are being migrated out there because there's a great big ball coming and a train to the north, which is going to take the place of our current data centre. So at the moment, today and next week, we're migrating version 4 to high specified servers, and hopefully that will improve the performance. We then have got a process of upgrading to version 5, and that's scheduled for Q1 2018. So I've been told the end of February. We started out looking at load balancing. We pulled away from that. We're definitely going to go back down that route once we're in the new data center. The experiences we've had with the MEDIAL app, the GoCoder app, meant that we've agreed that we will actually create our own app, have our own app branded, so it's branded UCL, but we will use the GoCoder SDK. And as much as Rob's scared about this, we'll open live streaming to all staff and students. Now, we don't expect all staff and students to live stream, but we don't want the trouble of actually having to say to one group you can have it, another group you can't. We'll see what happens. It's a bit of a pipe dream, but we keep getting asked on a daily basis, can I live stream this event? We do some very high profile events. We've got a team that actually do that, but we've also got student societies, clubs, the football club, things like that actually want to film stuff, they want to live stream stuff. They're doing it in the most peculiar way. The content's going all over the place. We want to sort of have that in one place and actually have I suppose what you describe as a sensible approach. So, here's the bit you're not going to like. we get requests, oh, I mean, it does this, it's great, but it doesn't do this. You know, could it do this? Can you do this? Can you do that? And then we get other requests. So I got a request the other day saying, I want to enable screen capture in Moodle. I said, no, you don't have to do that. We'll have something for you later next year. So that was that was a quick win. Media Lecture will do that for us. So what do we want? What do we want, or what do the UCL community want? These are some of the things that the UCL community have asked us. Some of the things that are what we want because they'll make our lives easier, the project team's life easier. So 360 video. We haven't done it ourselves, but we've seen other people do it, and we've assisted in other people doing it. We've got an Aura, the camera that we've got here today. It's being used today. We've got one of those. We'll get it set up. We're going to start doing some virtual tours. But they use 360 video at an open day. Rob, one of the guys in the communications team, has now gone off elsewhere. Just bought a cheap and cheerful, the Ricoh, if anyone's seen it. And he did 360 video of that. And he was just going around, and it was a way, and this is because obviously a lot of our students come from abroad. It was a way for students that are abroad, Africa and Asia. We have huge Chinese, huge number of people from Hong Kong, places like that, Malaysia, India. They're not going to get for an open day, but it was a way of giving them access to the open day. And it went down really well. And we know that there's going to be open days coming in 2018, and we know we're going to get asked to do more of this. And the guy that's done it, did it at the time, who we supported, has left. So we're going to have to do that. It's going to be important for us to actually get our act together, and therefore that's quite important that, you know, we can do 360 video and 360 live streaming. UCL was the first university in Europe, or one of the first three, should I say, to be fair, to have iTunes U. And obviously, you know, iTunes U's now moved to Apple Podcasts. We stopped using iTunes U probably 3-4 years ago in a serious manner. Maurice and I have been doing some investigations. We couldn't quite believe the number of people that were actually still downloading content from 2013. So we had a meeting yesterday morning, and we've agreed that we're going to kickstart it. And the reason being is that now it's Apple Podcasts. If you search Apple Podcasts, you search iTunes, you don't just get Beyonce, you'll get Noam Chomsky. You'll get, you know, the type of people that, the Nobel Prize winners that come and talk at UCL. We've been filming them, or they were filmed, and all that content is on iTunes. There's a huge number of people in America and Russia and China that have been downloading this stuff. Problem we've got is actually, we've got all this content in the MEDIAL library. We want to share that in other ways. We want to get it out to as many channels as possible. So we're looking for Apple Podcast integration. We'd like some form of subscription. And the other thing that we've talked about is how could we, I'll say it later, top and tail, but how can we actually put advertising into the, you know, into our videos? If we're putting something up about, you know, a lunch hour lecture, we want to be able to advertise the next lunch hour lecture. It's key for us is embedded playlists, and key for a lot of staff is the YouTube thing, which is where an item's unlisted. We managed to fudge it. We're not quite sure whether we did it right or not, but we've actually managed to fudge it within MEDIAL. I need to speak to Rob about it later. But yeah. One of the things obviously is we've always talked about, we've got our own UCL TV channel, but we want a proper TV channel. So we want to do sort of scheduling and of content. One of the things we need to do is enhance the speed of the encoding process, however that's done. Whether that's, we've already looked at, we've purchased more encoders, but you know, if there's ways of doing that, as you were speaking earlier, that's great. Big thing for us now, new person come in from HR, wants everything subtitled or captioned. started saying things like it's the law. Well, I had to point out to her it isn't. It is in the States, but it isn't here. It's just best practice. Someone mentioned that, 1080p should be standard and we should just forget everything else. Key, if we're going to do Apple Podcasts, is the ability to top and tail or pre-roll and post-roll. And of course, better reporting and analytics. We use Power BI, we use a product called Sawmill, and we use Google Analytics. But anything that was actually in the application, that would solve us, a lot of problems. No, that's not true. It would solve Gordon a lot of problems because Gordon has to do it. So that's me. Any questions? Oh, I like that. How have we done what? So what we did was, it was just bizarre. So you make an item personal to you. I've got to get this right now, haven't I? Make an item personal to you, all right? And then make it public. Is that right? Yeah. But not in the category. Just give it enable public access.
Oh, I see.
So you don't put it in the public access category. You just unclick the lock and make it public.
Okay.
Problem is, and we're not quite sure why, it doesn't work with every video. So sometimes, this is what we found, we were talking about it yesterday, it works with the majority, but for some reason, and we think the reason is this. You've uploaded some content and you've put it into a category. And then, I'll tell you how this happened. You talked about Active Directory earlier. A group of people in political science said, I can't see any of the videos. Why can't I see any of the videos? So Gordon said, well, I've given you put the right settings in, this is what it is, this is your category in Active Directory, and then went off and thought, there are over 400 different categories in Active Directory groups. It's probably more than that, it's probably near 500 now. There was one called Pol Sci, there was one called Pol Sci All, and then there was one PS All. And someone had created a new group, and we hadn't realised the difference was. So it went into the wrong category. And so all the videos for this group were in one particular category. So we took them all out, and they all went into a new category. All right, the actual correct one which Gordon had created. So those videos, it would appear when you then click on to make them personal and then make them public access, aren't. They're still stuck with the previous category that you'd given them. And it's just it could be the UCL thing, it could be a MEDIAL thing, we don't know. But it definitely works on the basis that, and we did it because we just had the staff survey, and I had to put a video animation that I'd created, and just make it available just to one set group of people. And so we did that. We just said, put it in for me, and then we made it public, and just sent out that as an email, as a link. And so the only people could see it were the people in the division, not everyone else.
Well, luckily, we're going to have unlisted in V6, so it'll save you all of that hassle of doing this and doing that. So that's in there. I mean, my question was more around live, actually. So when you talked about this kind of vision of everybody doing live, and you said that I'd be scared by that, and you were right, but no. So with that, I mean, is that are we talking? It always kind of fascinates me, the sort of content that we're talking about. So, for example, in the roadmap that I'll show later, there's live for media lecture. Mm-hmm. Are we talking about that, or are we just talking about, because we're talking about an app for the phone here, so we are talking about a talking head, aren't we? So what's the kind of the use case? What is it that you see?
So the situation we have is that more, okay, let me wind this back slightly. We have Echo 360. How many people have got Echo 360? No one. Well, no, take that off the video.
Yeah.
Okay, cut that bit out. So we have Echo 360 for lecture capture. But Echo 360 was a system which you had in-house. It's moved to the cloud. And it's moved to the cloud, and the whole process around that is totally different. All our lectures, where there's a lecture capture facility in the room, are being captured now. So whereas it was there was an opt-in, it's now moved to opt-out. So we turned up to a lecture because there wasn't any lecture capture in that room, and we filmed it. And when we turned up to film it, the team turned up to film it, the lecture went absolutely spare. What she hadn't realised is that her administrator had been booking the lectures for the previous 2 years. She hadn't even known that she was being recorded. So we end up in a situation whereby Echo 360 now is only for talk lectures. So lots of events happen after 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the evening. They're not necessarily talk lectures. It might be a seminar of some description, but they're not. It's not talk content. It is content which is. It might be, say, student societies. It might be CPD. We do a lot of CPD. We do a lot of work with. We've got a big faculty of laws. We get a lot of lawyers coming in doing CPD kind of work. Two things. Echo 360 in most of our places is recording very low standard. It's a fixed camera. If you're paying for CPD, you probably and you're a lawyer paying for CPD, you're probably paying an awful lot of money out. So they want everything recorded in 1080p, they want excellent audio. Now what they're saying is that they have every fortnight, they have one particular session where it's not just to those people in the room, it's the people in the world. So they want to live stream it. It's important that they live stream it because people are paying. People from whatever country it is are paying for all that. So that takes one of my or two of my team out of the equation for every other Monday night. They can't do that. And what you might get is you might get 5 other requests for something to happen on a Monday night. Now we can do one of two things. We can employ a freelance videographer, which is what we do, or we could get people to do it for themselves. And I think what we've proved with moving from the system that we had, the hand-built system, to MEDIAL, is that people can do it for themselves, providing you make it simple enough. So, if someone's got now an iPhone or a decent Android phone with a decent network connectivity on it, and most of UCL does have pretty good Wi-Fi now, and the GoCoder app, MEDIAL Live app, there's no reason why that event cannot be streamed out. It has to be managed still, because obviously there's as good as UCL's network is, there's still, I'm not saying at 8 o'clock there's 50,000 people there, but at 8 o'clock there's probably still 10,000 people there on site doing things. So obviously it will have an impact if everybody's live streaming. But it's more important that if the secretary or the chairman or whatever of the Canoe Society wants to live stream his, or record his event, it's just as important for them to do that as it is if a vice provost for education wants to do a talk. We should allow them both the same thing. We shouldn't distinguish between the hierarchy. We should just actually give people the tools that they need to do the job. So we don't expect 50,000 people to live stream, but we might end up with 10, maybe 20. But you want to have that done in a way whereby, and I don't know who those 10 or 20 are. It might be, and every night it'd be somebody different, or every day it'd be somebody different. That's the driver behind that. It's about giving people the access to, and I'm not saying, because obviously what we have done, we've trialled Facebook Live. We did the first, we did with Twitter, we were the first to do a lecture on Periscope. we've got a strong R&D ethos across the team. I see that as really important. I see ourselves as not just people who are delivering a service. We have to know what people want. I firmly believe in that, the principle that you don't actually go out and they give people what you think they want. You go out there and you find out what people want, and then you give them that. And what we're seeing back is what more and more people want to do live streaming, and therefore that's perhaps one of our #1 priorities at this point in time.
Great, okay. So I think we'll probably run over a tiny bit.
Sorry.
So I think what we're going to do is we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to have Nick and Cameron, or Nick or Cameron, come up and do their presentation from University of Brighton. So thanks for that, Tony. Thank you very much. Cheers.